Hi, welcome to Kitchen Uncovered. I'm Chef Andrew Nicholson with Culinary Institute of Canada. Today I have guest Marc Brunet from the Culinary. Hi, Marc, how are you?
Chef Andrew, very well, thank you.
Thank you. Tell us what you do at the school, Marc. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
It's all about flavor, fun, and it's all about food and wine pairing. Actually, that's what I kind of teach at the school. I teach to the culinary students and also to the international hospitality management students. It's all about food and wine.
So how to get different wines on your menus to correspond with some of the dishes you're cooking?
Absolutely. They just need to understand the flavor profile of food and also the flavor profile of wine. And there's a few ways how to do that, but we'll talk about that today, I guess.
Okay, so a little bit of change of plans today. I'm going to do a little bit of cooking with some dishes. We're going to start off light with some oysters, and then we're going to get into some heavier stuff and some desserts later.
Okay.
And as we go through the day, I think we're just going to talk about the different wines that pair with the different things and for different reasons.
Absolutely,
Okay.
Absolutely.
So today we're going to start off light. We're going to do some Malbec oysters in the half shell. So what do we look for in a wine when we're just enjoying some oysters in the half shell?
Well, oysters, first of all, it's a great pick. It's a great selection of food. Let's keep it simple, actually. When we talk about food and wine pairing, we talk about light body food. Well, probably we want to keep it simple and friendly. We want to talk about light body wines.
Okay.
So when we talk about light body food, would be light, fresh, and then actually just keep it very simple with no cream, no cheese. There's no weight to this food. Actually, it's just fresh and then clean. So what we'll do actually today is we will have some fresh oysters. And actually, Chef, what did you have in mind with the fresh lemon today?
Well, the fresh lemon, I was just going to squeeze it over the oyster today just to kind of give it that extra flavor profile.
Perfect. So keeping it nice and friendly, a light body food and a light body wine, while just adding a little bit of fresh lemon juice, or it could be lime juice, or it could be grapefruit juice. As long as you're adding in a little bit of citrus on the oysters, I've picked a Sauvignon Blanc. Actually, this Sauvignon Blanc coming from New Zealand. Now, it's a well-known wine. It's a safe wine. It's actually unwooded, so this Sauvignon Blanc was in no contact with wood. For example, wasn't aged in wood barrels. This wine has a lot of great, what we call performance flavor profiles. And this wine has citrus profile.
Okay.
So when we're actually serving this wine,
so there's a little bit of you can sense a little bit of citrus in the aroma of the wine as you're...
Smell that. You're having all this citrus flavor profile, and that's your bridge between light body food, light body wine, and it just works that way.
Okay, so that's all natural. Now, some people at home might like to saute their oysters because they don't like the texture of them, saute them in a little bit of fresh herbs. So today we're going to use a little bit of tarragon, some dill, and some thyme and parsley.
Absolutely.
What would that change, or would that change anything in the flavor profile for the wine with the oysters?
Well, food and wine pairing, I think the golden rule with my students, the approach has to be friendly and easy to understand, but you got to have fun. You got to keep, it has to be flavored profile. You have to have...
Enjoy both at the same time.
Exactly. What we'll do, the next step with adding in some herbs, if you're sauteing, I think you're going to utilize a fat body to do that. It could be butter or oil.
I'm going to use butter today because I like butter.
Okay. Well, actually what we'll do is by adding in some fresh herbs with the oysters sauteed, well, it's quite funny because in this wine, because it was unwooded, it has some nice smell, and also it has some flavor profile of what we call the licorice family flavor profile.
Licorice, also what you would get in the tarragon.
So that's the reason why, by utilizing some tarragon, some dill, and with the oysters, we're doing another bridge, is by utilizing the performance factor of this unwooded Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay.
And also that has some nice characteristic flavor profile of the anise. And then now with your herbs, here's another bridge. So there's one principle we say, mirror the body and weight of both food and wine to ensure that neither overwhelms the other. What do I mean by that? Actually, light body food, oysters, fresh, even sauteed, and light body wine with, for example, the Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay, so if I just tossing these in the aroma of the fennel scented herbs, then we can still use the same wine.
We can still use the same wine, absolutely. And when we talk about Sauvignon Blanc, we have Sauvignon Blanc that pretty much the grape variety Sauvignon Blanc performs really well. Very happy in what we call cool climates.
Yep.
We got warm climates and we have cool climates. And we have the old world wine country and we have the new world wine country, just like Canada. The Maritimes, we make great wines in the Maritimes. Prince Edward Island makes great wine. Nova Scotia makes great wine.
Right.
New Brunswick makes great wine. But we have to actually, in the Sauvignon Blanc, this style, I'm looking for a cool climate area where the grape variety will communicate nice citrus flavors as well.
So the wine from the region is as important as the flavor profiles in the wine itself as it's going through its aging process.
When we talk about the old world wine country, if I say, for example, a very friendly way how to remember that, I say the word figs. France, Italy, Germany, and Spain. So by saying figs, you're kind of really understanding that all the old country, their flavor profile for food and wine is back to where it comes from. It's all about the terroir. It's all about the land where the food comes from, and it's all about where the grapes was grown. We call the old world philosophy of food and wine pairing.
Okay. Now, oysters are very light and light-bodied wines, but if we're going to do something like an appetizer with a butter poached lobster, like we're going to do today with some PEI lobster, and you've got the richness of the beurre blanc and the butter sauce, is there something in there that we need to talk about as well?
Well, the first one was actually talking about this Sauvignon Blanc. When we say mirror the body of the wine and the food to ensure that neither overwhelms the other. So if we add on more weight and more body to the food, we have to go with more body with the wine.
Yeah.
So I've picked this is great because it's a great example for everyone to better understand that heavier food, heavier wine.
Okay.
Adding in some butter and lobster that is already nice and rich and even sweet and has a little bit of vanilla and just natural flavor into your lobster, utilizing a wooded Chardonnay from a warmer climate, Sonoma, California, United States, a new world wine country. Heavier wine, heavier food. Keep it simple, have fun, and it's all about flavor and it's all about having fun. But as long as you experience and making some notes about what's working for you, the most important thing is your opinion. Your opinion is based on your taste buds, and your taste buds are actually different from mine. But there are some golden rules for food and wine pairing, and we've already talked about one.
Okay, so Mark, we have our herb sauteed oysters ready here, and with the tarragon, you can really smell the aroma of the anise, right?
Absolutely.
Of the family, and that goes with the Sauvignon Blanc.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect pairing. Perfect pairing.
Nice and light and fresh, and if they don't like the texture, then they can saute them off, or with the half shell. And then we also have the butter poached lobster, which again is a little bit more rich, but goes more with the Chardonnay.
So again, that's a great example, Chef Andrew, for heavier foods, heavier wine. We talked about the Chardonnay that was actually aged in oak barrels, so it will deliver vanilla. It will deliver butter popcorn. When you go to the movies, the first thing you smell is opening the door, butter popcorn. You got butter popcorn on this nose. So heavier food, heavier wine.
Okay.
So again, I want to go with this Chardonnay, which actually you can see clearly that it's darker, more as a straw yellow, golden yellow. That indicates that the white wine is heavier body as well. Heavier food, heavier wine.
Okay. Don't go away, we come right back. We're going to talk about red wine. Welcome back to Kitchen Uncovered. I'm Chef Andrew Nicholson of the Culinary Institute Canada. Today here with Mark Brunet. Mark teaches wine pairing and food with the culinary students and the international hospitality students at the Culinary Institute of Canada. So first off today we've talked about pairing lobsters, wine, white wine, right, with oysters, and nice and light with full bodied. Now we're going to go into red wine.
With white wine, and what we talked about, what we've seen actually, we talked about Sauvignon Blanc was a lighter body Sauvignon Blanc. We had some straw yellow and green tinge to it. We had also the Chardonnay. Chardonnay came from a warmer climate as well, was oaked as well. and it had like a golden, nice golden hue color as well. And it's quite interesting to see that in the white wines, as it ages, gets darker in the color.
In the bottle, as it ages
In the bottle, absolutely.
Okay.
And for red, it's the opposite. As red wine ages, it gets lighter in color.
Okay.
It's a question of that into the color of the red wine. The color pigments actually is the separation of the color pigments, and with the color separation of the pigments will break open and then fall at the bottom of the bottle as it would be like sediments.
Okay.
So it explains why a red wine, as it ages, gets
lighter.
in color. That red wine we'll be using today went into the bottle was purple, a nice purple hue, and now it's would be with time brick red eventually in 7, 8, 10 years from now.
Is that why you should always store your wines in dark, cool areas in the house instead of where it's well lit?
It's a very friendly approach. Store your wines in a dark area where it's quiet, no vibration, and the temperature should not reach higher than 10 Celsius, and you'll be fine.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So today on the show we're gonna cook pork chops, right? Nice island pork. Everybody likes pork chops. So if you're pairing this with something for the wine at home, where would you go, or what type of wine would you look for if you were talking about?
There's
Reds.
actually, it's a great
Right?
question, and there's a lot of answers. and my answer is not necessarily the best one. It's only one answer that works for me. And again, when we talk about for flavor profile, well, your taste buds is the one that is the most important one.
Okay.
What you like as food, what you like as wine, if you have both of them with you at home, you'll make it work. Because this is the food you like, this is the wine you like. You're gonna make it work. But there is actually some basic rules of food and wine pairing.
Okay.
What I have picked actually to go with those pork chops would be a classic Massey. It's a Massey Camponfiore, and it's the grape variety is called the Ripasso. It's from Italy. It is a full body red wine, and actually would go great with red proteins, but also with a pork barbecue.
So you can also do barbecued steak with that same Massey wine.
Barbecue steak would go extremely well with a full body red. Now we can replace this red wine by the Ripasso. We can talk about Merlot. We can talk about actually Cabernet Sauvignon, Zinfandel. We can talk about Shiraz or Shiraz. Those would a lot of times will vinify full body red wines as well.
You're gonna open that. I'm just gonna throw these in the oven.
Okay.
So is there a technique, Mark, to opening the bottles of wine?
Well, opening the bottle of wine, the first thing that comes to your mind is there's a couple of different closures for now. You got the plastic plug. You have actually, we have Tetra Paks with the little spout. We have actually, like the one that we talked about with the Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, we had the screw cap. So we have all kinds of closures. But as soon as you open your bottle of wine, this one has a regular cork. Again, you remember figs, F-I-G-S, so France, Italy, Germany, and Spain. The old world, well, in the old world, we see a lot of new corks as well.
So is there a difference between twist-off caps and the corks? Is that determine the quality of wine, or does that
Not
matter? Because a lot of people will turn away from screw cap bottles.
Where I come from, 30 years ago, when I started to be a server or started to be interested in serving, actually, if you would have shown me a twist off of a bottle of wine, I wouldn't have probably bought it. But today, it's all the quality. We produce amazing, friendly, with inexpensive wines, and they come with screw cap, so feel quite comfortable of buying the wine, and the wine will be good quality from a screw cap or a plastic plug, or even, for example, a regular real cork from an old country, actually.
Okay.
Yep.
So with our pork chops today, we seared them off. We put them in the stone brick oven. Now we have, I'm making a chutney today, an apple chutney. And I have Gala apples and Granny Smiths for some sweetness and a little bit of sour in the chutney to go with the pork. How is that going to affect the tannins of the wine or the different flavor profiles that are going to happen?
Good question. What I like to see, first of all, with the apples or even a fruit, it could be figs, it could be all kinds of different fruits. But what I'm looking at here is that in the red wine, really important, there's a good amount of acidity in white and in red. In this red wine, the acidity is really important. We have tartaric and malic acid that is dominating in an apple. Malic acid is also dominating in a red wine. And acidity in your red, and also acidity in those apples that will be paired with a fatty dish, for example, your pork,
Right.
will be extremely well. That's going to be a bridge there. The acidity of your fruit and the acidity of your wine will work well.
So you bridge them together.
So I bridge them together. And a lot of times when we talk about food and wine pairing, your main ingredient, that is pork, is not always my bridge.
Yep.
My bridge to food and wine is a lot of times little details. How was the meat prepared? Was it marinated? Was it stuffed? What kind of sauce? What kind of chutney? That will be my bridge for food and wine pairing, not necessarily the pork. So I'm happy you're utilizing some apples today.
Yeah.
And we have all kinds of great apples in the Maritimes.
Yeah.
And all
You
kinds
actually
of-
have the Old Town Orchard in New Glasgow.
Yeah. Well, another one of my passion would be as an apple farmer. We grow all kinds of apples at the Old Town Orchard here on Prince Edward Island. And we do, of course, all kinds of chutney, apple cider, apple jam, and especially apple butter.
Okay. Now I'm adding a little bit of brown sugar and honey to this chutney. Is that going to change any profiles at all, or are we still?
Well, as I can see, you've added on just a little bit of honey. And what I like, what's going to work with this apple preparation in your pork,
Yeah.
is actually this wine, the Massey Campofiore, the Ripasso grape variety, is still low in tannins. And tannins are actually a feeling we have in our mouth. It goes like this. If you have this feeling, is that they have high tannins in your red wine. This wine has mild tannins and great fruit-forward wine as well.
Okay.
The fruitiness that you're preparing right now will be the perfect blend, will be the perfect bridge for this wine
Okay.
and the food. Yeah.
Now if I change the profile again and go with a little bit of cinnamon, because cinnamon and apples,
Goes well.
I keep adding different flavors
long
and different
as you put
profiles,
a
but
little
does that
bit-
change the wine?
It will change a little bit, of course, but again, because you're creating such a well balance in your preparation, Chef Andrew, it's only going to add in more complexity in your food, and this one is quite complex as well. When we talk about cinnamon, we're talking about spices, but the spices are in another category in food and wine pairing, or especially what we call the analysis part of wine, is cinnamon is in the bake shop spices. And the bake shop spices are always welcome in food and wine pairing with red still wine,
Okay.
but a small amount, not too much. Now, when we look at food and wine pairing, we've talked about the three principles. The first principle would be to mirror the body and weight of both, the food and wine, to ensure that neither overwhelms the other.
Right.
So we did a white wine with the oysters.
Okay.
And then also the other part is the second principle is to actually utilize the ingredient from the food to the flavor of the wine. That's another principle in food and wine pairing. Meaning that is we can also
Just going to grab a pork chop.
go ahead. So we can also actually bridge the flavor from the wine to the ingredient from the food. And the third one is actually what we call compare or contrast, which we'll talk a little bit about that in the dessert area.
Okay.
This smells extremely well, very good.
So the chutney's turned out pretty good. The caramelized sugars have
Oh,
reduced
absolutely.
down, and the flavors and the profiles in the wine
Oh yeah.
will kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
go from there.
Absolutely.
So the Massey will blend in with all the fruit and all the cinnamon that we've had in there.
A full body red wine with mild tannins, not too much of this, will work extremely well. So have fun, and you have to actually look for flavor, fun, experience.
Yeah.
And as long as you learn from your food and wine pairing, that's what's the most important one. Yeah.
Okay. Don't go away. We're going to right back. We're going to talk about dessert wines. Don't go away. Welcome back to Kitchen Uncovered. I'm Chef Andrew Nicholson of the Culinary Institute of Canada. Today with guest Marc Brunet, food and wine pairing instructor at the Culinary Institute of Canada. So we've touched on white wines. We've touched on our red wines with the pork and the chutney and the cinnamon and all those flavor contrasts. Now we're going to talk dessert. So what are we going to talk about dessert wines today, Mark?
Well, again, you've bridged the still table wine that we talked about, Sauvignon Blanc. We talked about Chardonnay. And also we talked about the Ripasso red wine. And when we talked about the Ripasso red wine, we talked about a full body red. We talked about Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Zinfandel would be quite similar. The glasses were a little bit bigger for a table,
Yep.
still table wine.
Yep.
Now
Nice
we're going to
full
enter
glass.
another category of wine. It's called sweet dessert, fruity dessert wines.
Okay.
So the reason why the glass is a bit smaller, because we use actually less wines to be served with desserts. So
Okay.
again, usually 2 to 3 ounces of dessert wines is plenty to be paired with actually a dessert.
Okay. So we have, today for dessert, we're going to do a traditional strawberries Romanoff dessert, which is macerated fruit, which is basically fruit marinated in liqueur. We're using an orange flavored liqueur today, and we're also using a raspberry wine from one of our local wineries.
Exactly. When we discuss food and wine pairing, one of the bridge is utilizing wine as, think about wine as just another ingredient. So if you can utilize your wine in your recipe,
Yep.
you're going to be utilizing this wine as a drinking wine with your dessert. You're bridging
Bridging it
flavor
again.
between your food and your wine.
Right.
Keep it simple, keep it friendly,
Yep.
and those principles are actually the golden principles of food and wine pairing.
Okay. So we want to macerate this. This one needs to marinate and soak to absorb all the flavors for a couple hours, right?
Exactly.
Prior to dinner. And then the technique to this is taking a whipped cream or a chantilly cream and folding it into that, right?
Yes, it is. Just folding in the chantilly cream. And again, the bridge over here was utilizing wine in the food, drinking it at the same time, but also the orange flavor from the Grand Marnier, the raspberry flavors from the raspberry wine, and your strawberries in here.
Yeah. You can't smell this at home, but this smells amazing right
This
now.
is just a beautiful, what we call bouquet.
Bouquet, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The strawberry Romanoff, lightly modified recipe, is quite friendly to do when, anytime, but it's more than welcome in a nice, beautiful spring day. You're just starting the year, and also in those warm, hot days
Yeah.
in the summer.
Nice and fresh with the fresh berries.
And you can have children involved too, from all ages. Everyone can help to marinate and macerate those fruits. So have the grandchildren, have anyone
Yeah.
participating. It's a very friendly recipe.
And then we have some that's just some strawberries that are just sautéed in the liqueur and the as wine as well, just to add a little bit of sauce and extra flavor to the plate.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's yep, that's a great idea. So we do some sautéing the fresh strawberries, and again adding in a little bit of raspberry in your pan, in your saucepan, and sautéing it a little bit. It's milder, and it's also the flavors are
Okay.
are quite.
We also have
So-
some homemade vanilla ice cream that we can put on top as well, and a little bit of
Absolutely.
pepper.
So
Where does the black
Romanoff-
pepper come in?
So the black pepper is actually what we want to do is, and I would add in a little bit more.
A little bit more?
Yep.
Fairly generous with the pepper.
Here we go. The Romanoff strawberries, we end up with some fresh ground pepper on the strawberries. Now it might sound a little bit different or even like weird, but wait until you taste those strawberries with the black pepper and the macerated from the orange and the raspberry. It's amazing. Now what's missing is, of course, your raspberry wine.
Raspberry wine.
That would be, and the flavors and of course the aroma, they just go well together.
Okay. Now that's a fresh strawberry dessert. We also have some chocolate truffles. So is there something we need to know about pairing the chocolate to wine as well for dessert or after dinner?
Well, the quick observation is that to everyone anyone who operates restaurants and bistros and dining rooms, and also here at home, the dinner doesn't necessarily stop at the main course or the entree. There's actually opportunities for you to apply principles of food and wine pairing with desserts. So
Yeah.
what we're communicating here, Chef Andrew, is that food and wine pairing starts from the first course all the way to the end. And there's a lot of potential for fruits,
Yeah.
desserts, fatness, and cream.
Yeah.
So with a light fruit, and also sparkling wine is also welcome. And one of the reasons why we talked about, we can also talk about a Prosecco or a Champagne or a sparkling wine from France or from other countries. And when we talked about some chocolate and also with some blackberry mead, blackberry mead is a wine that is produced here on Prince Edward Island that won actually the best dessert wines in Canada a
Wow.
few times.
Very
and
good.
with the chocolate, as long as the chocolate is not too sweet, so you're looking at a 60-70% chocolate cocoa,
Right.
and the pairing will go great. So a blackberry mead, M-E-A-D, it means that there's honey,
Honey.
in the wine, and it goes
Okay.
well with chocolate as well.
Wow, very informative. Thank you
kinds
very,
of good things.
thank you very much for being on the show today.
You're welcome, Chef. Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
Our pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Check out our Facebook page, kitchenuncovered.com. I'm Chef Andrew Nicholson with the Culinary Institute of Canada. Check us out next time.